النصير. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. The subject is Tawheed and Tawakkul. Tawakkul is such a quality in human beings and is such an issue. It creates a huge divide between the great prophets and the imams and those who are very close to Allah and the rest of us. You see, the main thing that divides us, that makes the prophets distinct and us less distinct, is the issue of tawakkul. This is something that we want to understand what it is. Tawakkul means to trust in Allah, to have confidence in Him, to put your affairs in His hands and know that He's going to take care of it. This is the meaning of tawakkul. Now, we all trust someone or the other, but when it comes to Allah, we see that when we look at the life of the prophets and the imams, they had this quality throughout their existence. They were so much trusting Allah that their whole life was defined by this. And it's one of those qualities where we shake and our faith starts to shake. The ground underneath starts to tremble every time we get into some sort of a problem. Whatever the problem in life will be, you see, the first thing we lose is trust. And we'll go through that now to see how that happens and why it happens and how can we build our trust and make it stronger, because that's the secret of greatness. Great people distinguish themselves from ordinary people in terms of trust. This is the one issue that divides everyone. So let's look at it. People have different ideas about trust. Now, what Islam says is very simple. It says that, listen, do your efforts, do what you have to do, and then trust in Allah for the results. The results are not in your hands, but you have to make effort to get something done and then trust in Allah. Now, in this regard, there are certain ideas. We can divide the whole world into three types of people. Some people have the idea, in terms of trust, that whatever we have is the fruits of our own efforts. And Allah has nothing to do with this. God has nothing to do with this. I worked for it, and so I earned it. And if I'm successful, it's because of me, not because of Allah or God or anything like that. And you see that prevalent in the society that we live in. If you ask anyone, what's the role of Allah in your life? You see that, listen, there is no role. I work for what I have, and this is mine. I did this. So they really think that whatever they have right now is the fruits of their efforts. If that was the case, then everyone who made effort would have it. But it's not the case. And so this is an ideology that Islam is against and doesn't ascribe to. This is not something that Allah says is the case, because whatever we do have comes from Allah. And now the issue is effort. On the other hand, the polar opposite, you have people who, for example, say that, everything is from Allah. Allah gives everything. We don't have to do anything. Yes, just have trust in Allah. Everything will be all right. You don't have to do anything, take anything like that. You see this. This happens in a lot of religious people. You might see religious people who are like that. They, for example, what they do is that they will put all their trust in Allah, and they say that Allah is it. He's going to give us, even if we don't work for it, Allah still gives. He's the provider, He is the giver. And Islam is against this also. Allah is against this also. Yes, Allah provides, but He wants us to put in effort also. He wants us to do something also. And then put our trust in Allah and rely in Allah. For example, I'll give an example from a historical example from Bani Israel. There was a man a long time ago in the history of Bani Israel. He wanted to prove to everyone that Allah gives and we don't have to do anything for it. So, what he did is that he went into isolation, into a jungle. Yeah, and he said, you know what? I'm going to stay here until Allah brings me the food and gives it to me. I won't work for it. So he sat there, started his worship, du'as, and everything. In the morning, the whole day went by. He got hungry. There was no food coming in. And by dusk, the sun is going down. And now he's hungry. He's really hungry. And he says, Allah, I know you're going to provide. I know you're the provider. Where's my food for today? Where is my provision for today? And then it was at that point he saw a man walking with his donkey with a lot of stuff on the donkey. He saw that man walking there. And he says, yes, I knew it. I knew it. Allah, you would, you know, I knew you're going to come through. And I'm going to prove to everyone I don't have to do anything. And then as soon as he thought about that, the man who was with the donkey made a hard left. He turned around to go somewhere else. And as soon as he turned around and he saw him walking away, this person called out to that man with the donkey and says, hey, hey, and shouted out to him. The man turned around, saw this person here. He came to him, and then you know what? He had food and he shared his food. And that person got his provision. And then a voice came to that person and said, listen, Allah does provide, Allah does give, but you have to put in some effort also, even if you have to say A for it. You said the A and then you got the food, but effort has to be put in. Islam's idea of trust is that first you put in the effort to do whatever you have to do. If you're sick, take the medicine. If you are studying, do your studies, give the exams, and then trust in Allah. And if you put in the effort, then you rely on Allah that Allah is going to give you the result. This is the idea of trust. Now, if you understood this idea, let me go now and explain the issue of trust in our life. Why is it that it's hard for us to trust in Allah? And how do you build trust? First of all, building trust happens by keeping promises. Trust happens when you make a promise and keep it. For example, you will see that you trust some friends and you don't trust some others. The reason that you trust some friends is because whenever they say something they do it. And then you build that trust over time, knowing that, if he or she says that she's going to do it, then it's going to happen. And on the other hand, you will see some people, they say things, but they don't do it. You see, you don't trust them. You have a mistrust in them. Are you sure you're going to do this? Are you sure you're going to do this? You ask that. Well, of course, I'm telling you I'm going to do it. Why don't you trust me? It's because, you failed in the past. You didn't do things in the past. That's why. You see, that's how trust is built. Trust is built by when you, for example, have experience with someone and they will tell you that they're doing something and they do it. That's the reason you trust the bank with your money. You put the money in the bank, and then at the beginning, when you open the account, every day you're checking the money to see if it's still there. Is it still there? Yeah, still there. You're still there? Still there. And after a while, you're like, okay, I trust the bank. because every time I check my account, it's still there. You don't expect it to disappear one day or it's vanished somehow. It doesn't happen. So a lot of people, you see, start trusting because when they see things happening and they see it happen regularly and frequently without uh, break, then they start to trust and they put their trust in that thing. Allah is the same way. Trusting in Allah is the same way. Let me ask you a question. Simple question. Allah has promised that He is going to provide for you. That He's going to provide for you. Tell me, how many years has He been providing for you? Look at your own history. See yourself. How many years has He been feeding you? I mean, you can actually say literally, even before you were born. Even before you were born, He was feeding you and taking care of you. When your mother didn't know how to feed you, He was taking care of you in the womb of your mother. And then when you came out, He was feeding you. Now, in all those years that He has fed you, think back, look back at all those years. Have you ever, can you point out to one day in your life that you can tell Allah that Allah, on this day you failed to provide? Look back. I don't want you to look at other people's life. Look at your own life. Look at your own life. Have you, because atheists are going to bring like, oh, the children in Africa are dying of hunger, this and that. Listen, I will go and ask those kids over there about that, and they will tell you differently. Trust me, you look at your own life. Trust is not built when other people give witness. Trust is built in our own self, with our own experience, with the experience I have. That's how I build trust. It's a personal thing. Trust is not built at, oh, everyone accepts it. I don't care if everyone accepts it. You know how many people are duped? Everyone just accepts someone. If everyone accepts someone, then we will all choose the wrong people and be fooled and deceived. No, just look at your own experience. And all the years that Allah has been feeding you and providing for you, did He ever miss out? Did He ever not do what He has promised? Did He once not feed you and provide for you? Now, this is a youth gathering, right? Maybe for you all, it's not as effective what I'm saying because you still are living with your parents, a lot of you, and for you, it's like, okay, you know what? My parents are taking care of me. But you can apply the same principle to your parents now. Was there one day where they said, for example, you know what? Unfortunately, we don't have food today. So you're not going to get any food. I can't give you. Let's even look at that. But the fact is that Allah has been providing every day and without any failure. So, my question is this. When Allah has been providing all these years, He has been building trust, and we have been building trust in Him. Why is it that we can trust a bank, we can trust an institution, we can trust friends, but when it comes to Allah, why is it that we fail? Why is it that we fail? Everyone else we trust. In fact, if you kept promises and that's it, we are ready to trust anyone. But when it comes to Allah, we have a problem with that. And so I will give an example for you. Let's do a test, an experiment, if you call it. A hands-on experiment right now. I see that the attention level of the participants has been very high. You have been focused on the screen and watching me and listening to me. I see that the focus is high, and I see that the attention It's very high, and I haven't lost any one of you. You all are glued to the screen. It's very good. It's very good. It's been what, almost 15 minutes, and you have been glued to the screen, which I am commending you all. So now that you have been glued, and just look at yourself that you have been paying attention for the last 15 minutes. Now, at this moment, let's say that you get a text message on your phone, Instagram, or maybe not Instagram, maybe a real SMS, you get a message on your phone, and it comes with some bad news. Again, as I said, the example I'm giving you, maybe if you don't work, you might not truly understand it, but if you don't work, look at your father. Let's say your father is sitting with you, and he gets the SMS, and you're all sitting in the masjid next to each other, and the father gets the SMS that I'm going to tell you. And it comes with some bad news. It comes with some bad news. What is bad news? The bad news is that it's a short message, 3 words, not the ones like, for example, we want to hear, like, I love you, you know, but 3 words that we never want to hear. You are fired. Don't bother coming to work tomorrow. Yes, that's it. In the middle of the speech, you get a text message and says, you are fired. And you are, don't bother coming to work tomorrow. Finish. It's over. Your job is finished. Now, you see, right away, this person, his mind is like thinking, oh my goodness, oh my God, my job is gone. I have to look for another work. Pandemic, who's going to hire? Unemployment, problems, mortgage, installments, bills. All of these worries are just like pouring into your mind. Until now, you are completely attentive to what I am saying. But honestly, tell me that once you get this message, would you have the same attention and focus as you were having before? What went wrong? What happened? Truly understand what happened. And not just you. You're the one who lost the job, right? The person sitting next to you, he sees you all worried and says, what happened? He says, I lost my job. And the person next to you is like, oh my God, you lost his job. And now his focus is gone also. And like, brother, you didn't lose your job. Why are you so upset? Why are you so upset? The guy next to you lost your job. You pay attention to the speech. But he's also gone. And everyone else who gets to know this, you see their minds are now scattered out of worry. Why are we so worried? What is the matter? You see, this is how easy it is to lose trust in Allah. This is how easily we lose trust in Allah. Yes, you lost your job, but tell me, all your life, you are a witness that Allah has been providing for you and feeding you. What's the matter? You think He's going to stop tomorrow? You think that He's going to stop providing for you tomorrow? It's going to finish? Why is it that you broke so easily? This is something that we all need to look into ourselves. Allah has proven to us that He doesn't fail to provide. Then why is it that we lose trust in Allah? This is the reason that Allah, if this is the state of our trust in Allah, Allah doesn't give us the responsibility of doing His work and bidding. The people that Allah gives His flag to do Islamic work are people whose trust is high. Trust is that which divides between the great and the mediocre. People who have trust, you will see that they are different. They don't break under pressure. A side problem that happens, he's like, so what? Allah is there. Allah hasn't gone anywhere. My job has gone. Allah didn't promise a job. He promised risk. The job is gone. I'll get another job. There'll be something else I'll do. Everyone is being fed, and everyone is doing something to provide for themselves, and they do get it. This is tawakkul. And that is something that we need to look at. Allah gives an example of this in the Quran. It's an interesting example, marvelous example. The example Allah gives to explain tawakkul, He didn't give the example of a man. He gave the example of a woman to show and describe tawakkul, to show and describe trust. He gave the example of a woman. A woman, lady, who has been left alone with her infant child in the middle of nowhere. No food, no people around her, nothing, no water even. The husband comes there, leaves his wife and his child in the middle of nowhere. There's no one to fend for them. Yes. And this lady, she is there with her child, and the husband leaves them there and goes away. He goes away. In fact, if Ibrahim had did that in our time, he will be arrested for abandonment. Right? I mean, that's what happens. We did that in our time. But he did it then. And these are people who are of a different caliber. He put her there. He just made a dua to Allah that, Allah, I'm leaving them here in the middle, in a land where nothing grows. You take care of them. And he just walked away. And you know what? His wife did not cry. His wife did not complain. His wife did not say, where are you leaving me? You can't do this to us. Her husband was leaving. She didn't say anything. She let the husband go. She knows that her husband is going, but Allah is not going anywhere. She had the trust in Allah. She didn't cry. She didn't complain. She wasn't breaking down. She held her composure. And then when Ibrahim went, Allah loved that trust so much. He wanted to create an example of that for all of humanity. He wanted to create an example of that. That I love this. Allah is saying, I love this. I want everyone to know what is trust. And if Allah had wanted, He could have given Hajara anything that He wanted, but He didn't. He didn't. And He told Hajara that, listen, I could give you, but if I give you, it will set the wrong precedence. Hajara, you are going to get and you will be provided by me. But first, I need you to put in some effort. Run between these two mountains. Run between these two mountains so I can provide for you. So that everyone gets to know that trust in Allah is good only after you make effort. Only after you have done something. Then you trust in Allah that now Allah have done it. Now it's in your hands. Now it's in your hands. You do this now. This is the beauty of trust. And when you trust Allah, then Allah just doesn't give you what's enough for you. He gives you so much that not just you, but the rest of humanity is going to be provided from it. Things that come through trust are a lot more than things that don't come through trust. Yes, if you don't trust Allah, Allah still provides for you. But if you trust Him, He gives you so much. He gives you so much. And that's why He didn't give Hajara just enough for her and Ismail. He gave Hajara Zamzam, which is still providing for all of mankind that goes to Makkah. This is trust. And that's the distinction, my friends, between trust and not having trust. People who have trust, they are different. Their thinking is different. In fact, it is such a huge difference that the people who lack trust or their trust is at a lower level can never understand the people whose trust is at a higher level. You know, an example, a person was walking by the masjid in the old days, he was walking by the masjid and he saw a wallet outside the masjid full, loaded with money. And he looked at that purse there, like, wow, someone dropped their purse here, loaded with money. And he's like, you know what? I should stay here until the owner comes and gets it. I mean, because someone might steal it. He was an honest person, a mu'min, a believing person. He stood there and then he saw someone walk out of the masjid. He came directly to him and went for the purse. He said, oh, is this your purse? He says, yes, it's my purse. Oh, thank God you're here. I was afraid that it was lost, and it's like I was bothered, by this and that. And the man whose purse it was said, it wasn't lost. He said, what do you mean it wasn't lost? I left it there. He said, but why did you leave it here? He said, I was going in the masjid. I didn't want to take dunya into the masjid. So I went there to pray, so I just left it out here. He said, but in whose care did you put it out here? He said, I put it in His care who appointed you to look after it. You see, my friends, when you put things in Allah's hands, it happens. Now, for a lot of us, we would not understand that thinking. We would say that this is reckless, this is irresponsible. But people who have trust are different. They are of a different caliber. That's what makes them great. That's what makes them strong. Yes, everyone has a different practice. Imam Ali said that trust in Allah but tie your camel. You all heard that, right? Yes, you all heard that. Yeah, it's very famous. You know, trust in Allah but tie your camel. Meaning that you can't just open your camel, let it run, and if it gets lost, you say, oh, Allah, what happened? Allah, Imam Ali says, no, trust in Allah but tie your camel. Now, this is a very well known hadith of Imam Ali. But did you know that Imam Ali did not practice that? Imam Ali did not practice that. When he went to the battlefield, he refused to wear an armor. And everyone would say that, why aren't you wearing an armor? It's dangerous. I mean, hey, listen, you are strong, you are fighting, and you are fighting people in front of you. What if someone comes from behind and hits you? Why don't you do this? So Imam Ali, in reply to that, said, it doesn't matter for me if I go to death or death comes upon me. It is the same for me. My friends, this trust is something that we might not understand because we're not at that level. But it's something to look at and see, Allah, I want to trust you like that. I want to be a person who wants to trust you like that. And when you do that, then you will see that Allah is going to start giving you different responsibilities that you never had before. And Allah will give you the reins of Islam, the flag of Islam to hold up, because only those who trust Allah, Allah gives them those major responsibilities. Being, for example, the Imam, being a prophet, even less than that, being a marja, being a leader. It's not just like normally that comes about. It's you all that trust that needs to be built. So if you want to build trust, look at your own self and then start seeing Allah. I know that you provide for, you have done it. And the more you look at yourself and see how Allah is giving to you, the more you'll build your trust in Allah. That's it. I'm going to end it right now. And we have time for question and answers. So go ahead. I'll open the door for question and answers and we'll make dua after that.
Great. Feel free to message your questions in the chat or unmute yourself.
Yeah,
But I have a question.
yeah, sure.
So I know you mentioned earlier on that we shouldn't be looking at like the starving children in different parts of the world. But I think sometimes it becomes very difficult to not look at that when you're thinking of Allah's risk. Like, why am I getting Allah's risk? Why am I living in a house with food and a laptop when there are so many people just like me who don't have those things?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason is this, right? You see, when you look at your own life, you have a much clearer and obvious picture of what Allah is doing. When you look at someone else's life, which is a small window into his life, it's very hard to make a judgment as to what is happening in his life. And usually misjudgments are made. That's why Shaitan likes to point out, see, oh, look at what's happening over here. Look at what's happening. Wait a minute. I will go and ask anyone that you say myself, and then you will see a different reply come from that person. If you go to them and you ask them, you will see that, you know what? They actually are more thankful for what Allah has given them than we are for what Allah has given us. And a lot of times we would not do that. That's why when you look at someone else, it's a very obscure image that you get, which you will never understand, and you always misunderstand that. So when you want to know about someone, go and ask them yourself. When you ask them yourself, it's different. The same people, for example, when I ask them, they're like so happier and they're happy with what they have and they're happy with the situation they're in. But when others look at them, it's bad. Let me give you an example, right? Let me give you an example. I was in a debate with a Christian pastor who had gone to Jordan on a sabbatical from his university. Um, so what happened is that when he went there, he met a Lebanese guy. He told this story to us, in our meeting. He said, I met this Lebanese guy on a bus. On a bus, I met him there, and he invited me home. So me and the guy who was with me, the local guy, we said, all right, well, let's go home. So he went there. They made lunch for us, and we were with their family. We were eating and doing these things, and then, and then he showed me the key to his house in Palestine. He says, this is the key to our house that we have been kicked out of. And one day I hope to go back there, he said. So the pastor was then saying, I felt really bad. I felt so bad how hard these people have it who have been kicked out of their homes, and they are being oppressed and they're so hard. We should be thankful we're living in America. We don't have this oppression. We don't have these wrong things happening to us. God has favored us. God has been merciful to us, and all of these things. He was going on about that, right? And I just listened to that and I said, all right, good. Let's see. So you're praising America because America has given you more bricks to live in and more windows and more nails. Very good. Let's look at it realistically. I just ask him, do you regard yourself as a good person amongst all the people in society? A good person from amongst the good people. You you believe in the Christ, you follow his teachings, you regard yourself as a godly person. Very good. You said that you met this random guy on a bus in Jordan and he invited you home. and he introduced you to his family, made you a part of his house. Tell me, um, if I met you on the street here, would you do the same for me? Would you invite me home and introduce me to your family and have lunch together? And he was honest. He said no. My friends, tell me, which society is healthier and which society is sick? A healthy society in which people trust each other, and a sick society where no one trusts each other. No, they are blessed over there. We are the ones who are suffering. We're the ones who are suffering because we think that just because we have a home that we are a human being. There's a difference when you look at people and what they have and appreciate that. This is how, when we look at reality and truth is like that. There's trust in that society. People trust each other. Here, no one trusts each other here. And so this is an example I'm giving you. Next question. How can we increase Allah's rizq in our lives? Very well. Allah's rizq in our life. First of all, let me define what rizq is, so you don't get the wrong idea. Rizq is not money. Rizq is not money. So if you want to ask me how to increase money in your life, that's different than increasing rizq in your life. Rizq is everything that nourishes you to get closer to Allah. My friends, if $1 that is useful for me to go to Allah, that is rizq. And the $1 million that's going to take me away from Allah, that is not rizq, it's a curse. So when you ask for rizq, maybe you're asking for poverty. You have to understand the concept behind it. Maybe you're asking for poverty because Allah will say it's better for you. Like the guy who came to the masjid of the Prophet at night, in the middle of the night, and no one was there, and he was hungry, and he went inside the masjid and says, Ya Allah, give me the best. I'm here in the masjid of your Prophet. Give me the best rizq you have. And he was expecting food to come down from the heaven because he's in the masjid of the Prophet. Nothing came. And when morning came and Rasulullah came out to make his prayers, he asked Rasulullah, I asked Allah for the best rizq, and nothing came. And Rasulullah said, yes, Allah gave you the best rizq. The best rizq for you not to have anything at all. Because as long as you didn't have anything, you were praying to Him, and Allah loved it. If Allah had given you something, you would stop praying and start eating. So a lot of times when we ask for rizq, make sure you know what you're asking for. Rizq is a beautiful thing. And yes, we want Allah to increase our rizq. Rizq is that which takes us closer to Allah. Yes, sir.
Alhamdulillah. I think we're approaching the end of our time.
Yes. Right.
So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Sheikh, for your eloquent lecture. I think we all learned a lot. As a reminder, everybody, we have another lecture tomorrow night for audiences 18 plus. And it will be at the same time, 7 p.m. inshallah. And the title will be Understanding Allah's Love and Mercy. So we hope that you'll join us then, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Have a great iftar, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.